Hi, this is Adam Allen. I thought I would record a short uh, conversation about working with the four bodies and exactly what I mean by that. One of the tenets of my Chinese medicine practice is that I'm interested in working, of course, with the physical body and what's involved with working with the physical body. But I'm also interested in working with the chi body. I'm also interested in working with the mental and emotional processes. And I'm interested in working with the spiritual body. So for me, my medical practice comes out of an understanding of what comprises a human being. And what I have long noticed is that whenever there is illness, sickness, imbalance, you might be able to get leverage from working on the physical body. Or to heal the illness, you might be able to get leverage by working on the chi body, the energy. Or you might be able to get leverage by working on the emotional and mental processes. Or you might be able to get leverage by working on the associations with the spiritual realm, the ancestors, and so on. So it's not always predictable as to at which point your intervention is going to really help somebody. And it's an interesting subject in medicine because there are practitioners whose real talent base is just one of those, approaches. And for me, I've always felt like I've needed to find an integrated functioning as a healer where I can approach each of the levels of manifesting human existence according to what the need is. And that's why I spend a bit more time with people and I do kind of look at that whole picture. So let me just kind of give an overview of what I think that actually involves, or what exactly is the structure of being human. So, one of the things about being human that's interesting is that we definitely have a physical body. We're clear about that, right? We've got a physical body. I think that's something that we could all agree on. Um, Although, is it really ours? Or is it just lent to us by nature, by God? Yeah, but anyway, here we are, inhabiting this physical vehicle. And so there's that. Now, there is also in every human being has a chi body. It's very hard to define this term chi, and it's made more complicated in its definition by the endless linguistic machinations of people who become obsessed with Chinese characters and ancient Chinese texts and try to figure out how to translate the character chi, which is, essentially not translatable, but it is describable. So the chi is that energy inside of you that you can feel. And so you could say that that is some sort of electrical force or electromagnetic or magnetic type force. Or these are sort of analogous words we use from our current, technological frame of reference. In the ancient times, 2,500 years ago, the technological analogy was to water. And so chi was analogized to streams of water, because at that time the technology of society was about control of the waterways. Now we're sort of in electromagnetic land, and so we use that analogy. They both are not inaccurate ways of describing this reality that we have this energy field that both interpenetrates our physical body and also radiates outside of our physical body. Now, The Chinese have known about this, as has every ancient wisdom culture. They've all got their own words for it, and some prana in India, and vital force for the holistic healing practitioners of Europe and the homeopaths and so on. I mean, everybody came up with a term for this because it's an innate human reality, and it's only the materialistic paradigm that can't get its head wrapped around it. It's only if you sort of assume that all we are is physical that you have a hard time examining your own experience, which is that human beings feel energy. They feel it relatively easily. I've been teaching Qigong for decades, and it's very straightforward to get people to feel their Qi. It only takes for most people a few sessions. And then sometimes it takes some people a little bit longer. That's okay though. But it's not that hard for human beings to feel energy fields. What's also interesting is that you can measure energy fields around human bodies. You can measure energy fields using Western scientific mechanisms. You can measure electrical fields, electromagnetic fields, pure magnetic fields. You can measure photonic light fields around living systems. You can use the Kirlian photography systems that kind of picks up various kind of energy fields. You can measure microwaves, infrared radiations. You can measure ultrasound emissions, and you can map all these measurements. And so it's very clear, according to Western physiological research, that human bodies emit all kinds of radiating stuff. And in fact, every time they study it, they find more. What is not in existence in the current Western materialistic paradigm of reality and therefore also of health and medicine, what is not in existence is any kind of framework to take all this information and work with it and utilize it and think about it and see what it means. There's very few people really doing that. Certainly, it's very, very far from the mainstream. So it's scientific information that doesn't fit the paradigm. So it's ignored, or it's not certainly not funded. It's certainly not organized and integrated. So what I'm trying to say here is that the Qi body is actually measurable in numerous different ways across a wide spectrum of the electromagnetic frequency range. It's also feelable subjectively. It's trainable. The Chinese Qigong arts are practiced by something like 100 million people in Asia, and this is a known, straightforward pathway for developing different types of energy, for feeling different types of energy in the body. And it's fundamental to the practice of acupuncture that we get some grasp on this idea that there's this Qi body. Now, here's my simple kind of way of thinking about this. Your physical body exists in a set of dimensions. I would argue that you have a Qi body, and that your Qi body actually exists in probably a slightly different set of dimensions where it can make itself evident inside the physical realm, and that's why you can measure all the effects of Qi quite easily. You can also measure Qigong masters emitting various kinds of energy out of their bodies. It's very straightforward to measure that. But what you're measuring is the effect of Qi. The actual Qi itself, that probably exists in a set of dimensions that are not yet quite quantified to the extent that they would need to be to really make this kind of Qi phenomenon measurable. Now, it sounds very woo-woo probably to talk about other dimensions, but hey, quantum physics talks about 12 or 13 other dimensions, or at least dimensions, including the ones that we know of. So it's not that out there. What's humorous to me about the sort of whole problem with Qi is that it's so easy to feel, it's so easy to work with, it's so instinctive. Everybody gets a feeling for their energy. You can feel your energy, and then it's actually People are always feeling other people's energy. This is not actually outside of the realm of people's experience, but it's outside of the framework of our collective conversation based on the corruptive Western paradigm of the materialistic dialectic. So, when I'm working on somebody in a medical context, I'm interested in maybe working on the physical body, and I do a lot of traditional Chinese body work and Mongolian warrior massage and different kind of ways of working with the physical body, and acupressure and acupuncture. I'm also interested in the qi body. I'm interested in the different types of qi, and of course Chinese medicine has defined numerous different types and qualities of qi that we work with when we work with medicine. Now, I'm also interested in the mental and emotional processes that people are going through, and that is innate to traditional Chinese medicine, that we stay present to the mental and emotional process, and we might see the interrelationship between any particular sickness or illness or imbalance and underlying mental or emotional processes that are interwoven with that. Now, what I typically see with myself and with other people is that any illness, imbalance, sickness will tend to have an associated mental and emotional component. That's the third body, if you like. Some people call that the mental body or the astral body. It's a realm of manifesting, which again I would argue is actually in a slightly different set of dimensions even than the qi body, although it intersects the qi body and it intersects the physical body. Dimensions do intersect each other. So sometimes, often, working with the awareness of the mental and the emotional components of an illness can act as the catalyst that shifts the picture. Similarly, often you find that just that right trigger point in the physical body, and boom, the whole pattern starts to change. Or you're working with the qi. You find that quality of energy that is deficient, and you can strengthen it using your acupuncture and your herbs, and then again the whole pattern will change. So what I'm looking for in studying this whole human system is I'm looking, as a practitioner, I'm looking for those points where my intervention can be the fulcrum for change, or where I can get the crowbar in, where I can get the leverage to shift what's currently going on. Now, the fourth body is, of course, the spiritual body, or you could call it the ancestor body, the spiritual body, the causal body. I mean, the thing about subtle bodies is that once you get outside the physical body, the further out you get, the more you can divide them. It's like Jesus says in the Bible, in my Father's house there are many mansions. So once you get into the qi realm, and then especially the mental or astral realm, and then the spiritual realm, you can start looking at subdivisions of those bodies, so that you could say there are 8 bodies, for example. That is a very common Taoist tradition that is well taught by Bruce Francis, for example. Or you could come up with some other number of these subtle sheaths, these subtle energies around the physical body. I like to go with a fourfold model for the following reason. I think that fundamentally there are 4 sets of dimensions that we as humans manifest in, so that I think you can make a fourfold division quite easily. And you can always add other divisions in as you need or want to, but I like to stick with a fourfold division. So that fourth body then has to do with the spiritual influences, the ancestral influences, or some people might say past life influences. It has to do with your spiritual guides, your spiritual teachers. And then from the point of view of healing and medicine, it has to do with how meaning and learning are interwoven into sickness and health. They're interwoven into accidents, illnesses, imbalances, sicknesses. And so one of the powerful points to get that change in the system is often by actually allowing the person to contact the meaningfulness or the meaning for them of what is occurring in the body, what is occurring with any kind of imbalance or illness. So when I go into a treatment, I don't necessarily have a limited sense of, oh, I'm just going to work on the body, I'm going to work on the chi, I'm going to work on this. I'm more in a state of receptivity to listen to where is the point of blockage. In Chinese medicine, we have this beautiful understanding that where there is pain, there is blockage in the movement of energy. And so I would extend that to say wherever there is illness or imbalance, mental or physical, there is some blockage, and blockage represents, in the human system, it represents a point of focus, which could be a point to learn something, or it could be a blockage because something has been pushed into the unconscious, emotions may have gotten stored in the body, or it could be a physical blockage, literally on a physical level. Do you see how this is an expanded vision on, somebody comes in with pain and you give them a painkiller, or you give them any drug for that matter. It's an expanded vision of what illness is and what healing can be, right? And very often it makes all the difference. To be able to kind of find those points where the system can shift makes healing easier. So that's my basic summary of why you might want to consider working with all of your bodies when there's any sickness or illness or imbalance. So this is my little Christmas, New Year's message for everybody, because I'm going to go traveling for a little while. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a really beautiful winter solstice time and New Year. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.